Welcome to CT with CPD podcast. I am your host, Sharon Diggs, and I am excited today to talk about something that we don't talk about all the time when we think about mental health. And I just want to put a different spin for all of us to think about insecurity. And today's educational therapy session is titled Control Alt Delete. Insecurity is ugly, not you. I must confess, as a modern day Black woman, many of us are seen as or described as strong, confident Black women. But I love the show that Issa Rae created called Insecure. And the show basically is about two best friends who deal with their own real life flaws, their insecurities, and they come together to figure out ways to cope with the endless series of uncomfortable everyday life experiences. And anybody who's been on my podcast, you heard me say that life be lifing, and it's real. Like, we're going to experience all different types of everyday life experiences and still expected to show up at work and still expected to be a good husband, to be a good wife, to be a good mother, to be a good father, and etc. But everyone feels insecurity. It's a part of our lives, which are filled with uncertainty. No matter how much we want to get rid of that uncertainty, we often use the term insecure to negatively label people who have doubts and fears about themselves. But the truth is, no one is free from feeling insecure. Now, you know that I know that you know that it would not be a CT with CPD podcast if I did not share some did you know facts. And did you know that 6 in 7 people worldwide experience feelings of insecurity? They also show in findings that men are more likely, 35% are more likely than women to have first been insecure about their personalities and their abilities. Insecurity and self-doubt can start at different phases in our lives. And I personally feel like insecurity is identity theft. And what is identity theft? Identity theft is when someone steals your personal information, such as your social security number, and uses it to create a new account and make a purchase, and they typically want to commit fraud. I look at insecurity as a thief because we tend to mask behind who God really created us to be through our insecurities, and I think about when God created us and he created us in our mother's womb, he created us to be masterpieces. So what is insecurity? One might ask. Insecurity is a feeling of feeling inadequate, not being good enough, and having levels of feelings of uncertainty. Insecurity produces anxiety about our goals, about relationships, about our ability to handle certain situations. And what I say to that is the devil is a liar. The devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And so again, what did I say? Insecurity is identity theft. I feel like it is a thief. It robs us of our joy. It robs us of who we really are. It robs us of love. It robs us of life experiences to enjoy life to the fullest. Because the word says, and I'm just going to state a few scriptures, but there are many scriptures that back the fact that I know that the devil is a liar and that insecurity is definitely identity theft. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in your mama's womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you, and I appointed you to be the prophet of nations." Psalms 139 verses 13 and 14 says, "For you were formed in my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb, and I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well." Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are the workmanship created in Christ for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." And one of my favorite scriptures of all is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for your welfare, not for evil, but to give you future and a hope. There are so many scriptures that support, as I said, that insecurity is identity theft. And Ephesians 2:10 clearly states that we are God's masterpieces. So to me, it goes, well, what triggers our insecurities, or what causes a person to be insecure? Insecurities are brought on when we recognize the differences between ourselves and others and comparison. And I always tell people the only person you should be in competition with is yourself. Competition is robbery. It is a thief. And it's either we think about this on our own or through someone else pointing these things out. I always say that people are joy stealers. They come and you can feel confident about something and confident about yourself, and somebody will come and deflate you due to their own reflection of how they feel about themselves. And I'll give an example: a child who is teased on the playground at school for being maybe bigger than somebody, or having a different skin texture, or different hair, or whatever the case may be. That people will make us feel insecure about our bodies, about our personalities, about our weight, etc. I clearly remember personally when I was young, being called mellow yellow. I was a little full figure when I was small, so I was called jello butt. When I was a child, I was bullied in junior high school. Now they call middle school, for being light skinned, or as they referred to me as being a quote unquote red bone. I remember going through periods where I felt my hair wasn't long enough, my boobs were too big, etc. So again, no one is free from feeling insecure about themselves. So what makes most of us insecure? The major cause of a person to gradually become insecure in his or her shared bad experiences. It could be based off of broken trust. Somebody cheated on you, a disturbed childhood, traumatizing episodes in our home life or at school, not feeling loved enough. It could be ignorance, etc. It's a sort of fear that sets in no matter how strong we try to project ourselves to be in. And that's why I said that it's an identity theft, because we mask behind these things and not really addressing them. And so typically we'll find that most common insecurities that people have, and here are some examples, would be body image. Especially with social media now, and I think it's crazy because they Photoshop and they pretty much use filters for everything. So it's almost like a big lie. And so people don't even look the way they look. And we don't even want to get into makeup. That's another whole conversation. Social insecurity is one. Job security, lack of openness, the lack of not feeling comfortable to be vulnerable. And I talk about this in other podcasts. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is a strength. To us being too much like perfectionists, having perfectionism, our fear of failure, we lack confidence. And a lot of the times we're very critical of ourselves. We tend to be more critical of ourselves sometimes than other people. Interesting enough, I find that we tend to nowadays harp on narcissism, and when we talk a lot about mental health, we tend to primarily focus on anxiety and depression. But what is insecurity a symptom of? And really, insecurity is a underlying medical health condition, very much like anxiety and depression, and can show up like personality disorders, or borderline personality disorders, I may say. And people will, now that we focus on narcissistic personalities. So we think about this, and I think that as society, we're so quick, and as I talked about in the beginning, that we label people who are insecure, but we don't, instead of asking what's wrong with them, we need to ask what happened to them and why are they this way? Because we are quick to be like, this person does this and this person does that. I personally, and I talked about this before in other podcasts, is that women tend to get green passes for being insecure and always this, but I don't think that there is enough support or enough safe spaces, I should say, for men. It's getting better, and men are being more vocal about getting therapy. So it's getting better, but I do feel like we have a stronger social support system and safe spaces for women to be able to lay it out on the table than men. But it's interesting is men experience the same things we get experience about. If a man's too short, then he has a complex about being too short. If a man's too big, he has a complex about being too big, etc., or how he looks. And then I just think also to the societal pressures that men are placed with puts a level of insecurity that they don't feel worthy enough to maybe date a particular woman or to get a certain job. So men experience it just as much as women. But again, I feel like women tend to have a better support system and they have better safe spaces. And so we have to do better and be better at supporting everybody, because again, no one is excluded from having the feelings of insecurity. So what are some ways we could overcome insecurity? Now, keep in mind, I'm going to share a few ideas, but remember, what may work for me may be different for you, and what may work for someone else may be different, and a different way or a different approach for you to work through your insecurities. And I also feel like it can work at different times in our lives, because we go through phases of life where you think about, you go to adolescence when you're 13, 14, and how are you going to be tall? Are you going to be fat? Am I going to get breasts? Am I going to, like all the different things we go through as men and women through adolescence. But then it's also to when we get married, what do we go through in those phases? It's also when we go through our midlife crisis, or when women go through menopause. So you start to feel different about yourself. So again, some of these techniques could work for you as, in your younger years. Some may work through menopause, but you have to figure out what is going to work for you to overcome insecurities. But I'm going to share a few ways that you can overcome insecurity. And I think this is a huge one for me, is that we have to be kinder to ourselves, and we have to give ourselves grace. We have to forgive ourselves, because a lot of the times we're so, like I said, we can be so critical of ourselves, and we have to be kind to ourselves. We have to get to know ourselves. We have to figure out what actually makes us happy. What do we actually value in life? And we have to figure these things out, and it's trial and error. And again, what worked for me probably 20 years ago is completely different now that I'm 53. So this is an ever evolving, ongoing thing that we continuously have to work through when we're going through life, because life be life, and y'all. We have to try to challenge ourselves to not think about unkind thoughts about ourselves. We can't always just put ourselves down. We have to try to speak life into ourselves, to be positive about ourselves. We have to practice saying no, because we can't be everything to everybody. And being assertive is not being aggressive. And so be clear that a lot of times when we set boundaries, people think we're being aggressive or we're being mean. It's being assertive so that we can stand our ground when we need to. We have to not compare ourselves to other people. We have to try to avoid that at all costs, because who you are made and in Christ is who he made you to be. Unique person, individual, your characteristics, rather from your body shape to your body size to your personality. He made you distinctly unique to be you. And I think it's important that we do nice things for ourselves. Like, we definitely, I'm going to talk about that too coming up. about self-care is one of the things that I think is huge, but I think it's important as we're being kind to ourselves that we do nice things for ourselves. Secondly, one of the things that we have to do, and I talked a little bit about this, I hit on it, is we got to try to stay positive. I mean, we know it's always going to be something in the world, and people are going to come. We're going to have the negative Nancys. We're going to have the Karens. We're going to have our people, always, our friends or family members always want to have one up on us. But it's important for us to, no matter what is going on, because being positive is a choice, okay? And so we have to make the conscious effort to celebrate our successes, no matter how small they are, no matter if no one else praises you, we have to take the time to celebrate ourselves and to celebrate our life successes. We have to compliment ourselves, get in the mirror every day and tell yourself, girl, you bad, or dude, you got this, or, I love myself. It's important that we take that time to compliment ourselves. And if you feel brave, you can ask people some things that they like about you. And I've done that. I've done it, or I've always had to do. I'm a trainer as a profession. I am a leadership facilitator. And so a part of that, we have to do surveys. And you got to get feedback and constructive feedback about yourself. And I think it's important that we do get that feedback and we hear how people see us and what they like about us. And one of the things that people always say is, I love your positivity. I love that you're always very outgoing. And that drives me because that's something that they see in me and that it's consistent. And also, too, write a list about the things you like about yourself. What do you like about yourself? And then I also think it's important not only to think about what you like about yourself, but think about what you don't like about yourself. And there's certain things that, even though we have cosmetic surgery, which I don't even want to talk about that, that's on another podcast for another day, but we can change features about ourselves. Or what do we like about our personalities? What do we not like about our personalities? Again, what do we like about our bodies that we don't like about our bodies? And how do we learn to come to grips and appreciate having good health in spite of the fact, I'll be an example. I've always been top heavy, always been conscious about it, but I had to make a decision. Okay, I don't want to have surgery. So what do? I have to find clothing to complement my physique and to make me feel good about myself. And so there's ways that you have to do, I had to come to the realization, is certain things I just can't wear that somebody who's smaller, who has smaller breasts than me, could wear that I can't wear. And I had to accept that, but I also had to find things that fit me and complement me and make me feel good. So it's important that you do take that time to think about what you like about yourself, but also thinking about the things that you don't like about yourself and how you can embrace them and still show it love every day. Have an attitude of gratitude is so important. And having an attitude of gratitude is really us making a conscious habit of expressing appreciation for everything in life, no matter how big or how small. It's important, and I talked about this a little bit, of how men don't have a good support network. So men, I know women tend to gravitate to, their girlfriends in church, social media platforms, but men and women, but especially for men, because I do feel like men don't have that safe space to really work through their insecurities. You gotta build a support network. Again, ladies and men, you want to try to find someone that you can talk to that you trust, having someone to listen to you, and having someone to actually show that they care is huge and beneficial when we're feeling insecure about ourselves. We want to focus on positive relationships. I'm a big believer of getting out of toxicity out of your lives. I don't care who it is. Toxic is toxic. And it's important that we surround ourselves with people who have positive relationships with you, and that they want to see you win at life. They want to see you be successful. They care about you. They love you. They care about your overall well-being. and just genuinely only want the best for you. Definitely making connections with people who share or have similar experiences with you. So having that peer support is good too, and it helps. And of course, therapy can help with building your self-esteem and helping you to find ways to cope with experiences that affect how you feel about yourself. And then lastly is self-care. And anybody who's been on my podcast know that I say self-care is the best care. We have to look after ourselves. We have to make sure we're getting enough sleep, because that does impact how we feel about ourselves. We have to take care of our bodies. We are what we eat. So we have to think about eating and eating healthy and keeping our bodies and our energy levels in a good space. We want to try to definitely keep physical activity in our lives, to be healthy and fit. Exercising, being active can help our mental well-being. So it's important that we exercise. And this actually improves our self-esteem. We want to spend time outside. I feel like spending time with nature, water is therapeutic, and scientifically it shows that being outside in nature, touching grass and seeing water actually helps our mood. So whenever we can get outside, enjoy outdoor activity as much as we can. We want to practice mindfulness and meditation, and I also find that yoga helps as well. If it helps us in a self-care perspective. I also think too, just sometimes volunteering. We try to find something that we love and that we're passionate about. It gives us a sense of life and it gives us a sense of fulfillment. So even if you have a job or you're doing something, it's okay. What is that thing that fulfills you? And maybe volunteering that, because it does make you feel better about yourself as a person. So I do think that volunteering is a really good way to help to build yourself up and to build your self-esteem. Set small goals for yourself, things that are manageable, and that gives you a greater sense of achievement. And I try this every year. I try to learn something new. I take on a new hobby or a new travel experience to just add into my life or to learn something new. I think that also builds your confidence. So this year for me was yoga. So I just started yoga in January. Love it. Absolutely love it. Last year I incorporated glamping. It was my new adventure of actually, I just say it's a bougie way of camping, but to just give myself other life experiences that make me feel good about myself. So I'll end this educational therapy session with building your confidence. Is really important that we build our confidence to control, alt, delete insecurity. Because remember, insecurity is ugly, not you. But this requires us to make a daily conscious effort to work on ourselves, and there are no days off, to be the best version of ourselves. Every day you have to exercise your power of choice to be the best version of yourself. Every day we are going to be challenged with something that will cause us to second guess ourselves out of fear, out of doubt. But we must remember, whatever shows up is only 10% of what's happening to us, and we own 90% of how we want to respond to it. We get to choose how we want to show up for ourselves, and that's what's important. One of the simplest ways to show up for yourself and to build your self-esteem is to make time for things that bring you joy and make you happy. To show up for yourself, or what it looks like to show up for yourself in an authentic way, can look like this: being honest with yourself, not hesitating to ask for help, practicing self-compassion, honoring and setting boundaries for yourself, practicing and self-care, feeling confident about yourself and your abilities, practicing self-forgiveness, giving yourself grace, working towards your life goals personally, professionally, spiritually, financially, and emotionally, taking care of your body, mind, and soul. And the hugest piece is cutting off toxic people from your life. Toxicity is not tolerated. Let it go. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this educational therapy session, Control, Alt, Delete, Insecurity is Ugly, Not You. Until our next session, remember to exercise your power of choice because it is yours all day, every day. Showing up for yourself is the ultimate sense of you making choices that honor your emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual needs as they arise. I want everybody to be blessed and have an amazing day on purpose.